When you stop doing this, men will value you more. There comes a time in life when silence speaks louder than words, and self-respect becomes your greatest companion. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you finally do. You stop begging for love that should have been freely given. You stop shrinking to fit in spaces that were never meant to hold your light. And in that moment, that sacred, powerful moment, something shifts. You start walking with a quiet dignity. You start choosing peace over attention, boundaries over validation. And the world begins to see what you've always carried within you, worth that cannot be measured by anyone's approval. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about coming home to yourself. And when you do that, when you begin to cherish your heart, protect your energy, and love yourself with the same intensity you once gave away so easily, that's when they start to notice. Not because you demanded their respect, but because you finally gave it to yourself. Stay with me. This could be the beginning of your becoming. Choose self-respect over approval. Set boundaries without guilt. Stop chasing, start attracting. Value your own worth first. Heal, grow, and let silence speak. Choosing self-respect over approval is one of the most powerful shifts a person can make in their life. It's a decision that doesn't come easily, especially if you've spent years trying to please others, seeking validation and molding yourself into versions that were more acceptable, more likable, more enough for the world around you. But somewhere along the way, you begin to realize that all the applause in the world means nothing if you're clapping for someone you don't even recognize anymore. You begin to understand that people's approval is fleeting and often conditional. Then, one day they love your boldness, the next they call it arrogance. One day they praise your kindness, the next they say you're too soft. Living for approval becomes a never-ending performance, and the stage is exhausting. You wear masks, play roles, speak carefully so you don't offend, and shrink yourself so others can feel big. But deep inside, your soul aches. It whispers that there's more to life than being liked. There's peace in being real. Choosing self-respect is not loud. It doesn't scream or demand attention. It's a quiet shift, a steady reclaiming of your power. It looks like saying no even when you know it might disappoint someone. It looks like walking away from a relationship where your value isn't seen. It looks like sitting alone at peace instead of surrounded by people who drain you. It's not always glamorous. Often it's lonely, difficult, and full of moments that test your strength. But what it gives you in return is priceless. The ability to look in the mirror and truly be proud of who you are. When you begin to choose self-respect over approval, you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop bending over backward for the ones who only come around when they need something. You stop tolerating emotional crumbs from people you've served with your whole heart. You start asking, what do I want? What do I need? What makes me feel whole? And in asking these questions, you begin to rebuild the relationship that matters most, the one you have with yourself. It's not easy. There will be people who don't understand your new boundaries. Some will accuse you of changing. Some will leave. Let them. Because every person who walks away when you choose yourself is making space for those who will love you without asking you to shrink. And every time you say a no to something that doesn't honor you, you are saying yes in a life you truly deserve. Self-respect teaches you that not everyone has to like you, and that's okay. You weren't born to be everyone's comfort zone. You were born to be whole, real, and free. Approval can be taken away in a heartbeat, but self-respect? That stays, that grows, that becomes the foundation of everything you are. And everything you are becoming. Setting boundaries without guilt is one of the most liberating and self-loving acts you can do. But for many, especially those who have always been the nurturer, the giver, or the one who keeps the peace, it feels unnatural at first. You've been conditioned to believe that love means sacrifice, that kindness means availability, and that saying yes makes you worthy. So when you start saying a no, the guilt creeps in like a shadow whispering, you're selfish, you're unkind, you're too much. But none of that is true. Boundaries are not walls, they're not punishments or acts of cruelty. They are bridges, clear lines of self-respect that tell the world how to treat you. They are the voice of your inner peace saying, this is where I end and you begin. Without boundaries, you give away pieces of yourself until there's nothing left but exhaustion and quiet resentment. You smile on the outside while silently falling apart inside. And that's not love. That's self-abandonment. At first, setting boundaries feels uncomfortable. You'll question yourself. You'll replay conversations in your head, wondering if you were too harsh or too distant. You'll feel the urge to apologize for simply protecting your energy. But healing begins the moment you realize that guilt is not a compass. It's a byproduct of unlearning patterns that never served you. Guilt doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It often means you're doing something different. You start by honoring your own needs without justifying them. You begin to say, "I can't make it," without explaining your entire schedule. You stop overextending yourself for people who don't even notice your effort. You start to detach from the idea that your worth is measured by how much of yourself you give away. You understand that your time, your energy, your presence, these are gifts, not obligations. As you grow stronger in your boundaries, you'll see the world differently. You'll notice how often you used to betray yourself for the sake of harmony. You'll feel how much lighter life becomes when you stop trying to be everything for everyone. Some people will be surprised. Some might even get angry. That's okay. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will always struggle when you create them. But their discomfort is not your burden to carry. You begin to notice the beauty of protecting your peace. You start showing up for yourself the way you always showed up for others. You rest without guilt. You speak without fear. You prioritize your well-being not because you don't care about others, but because you finally care about yourself. You realize that every time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to something that heals you. Setting boundaries doesn't make you distant or cold. It makes you authentic. It gives your relationships clarity, structure, and space to breathe. People start to understand that you have limits, not because you're cruel, but because you value yourself. The right ones will respect you more for it. The wrong ones will fall away. Either way, you win. Because you're finally choosing your peace over people-pleasing, and that changes everything. Stop chasing, start attracting. It sounds simple, but it's a transformation that begins deep within. It starts when you realize that you've spent too much of your life trying to prove your worth, trying to be chosen, trying to be seen. You gave, you waited, you compromised, and sometimes you lost yourself just to hold on to someone who never saw your true value. You kept running toward people, attention, love, opportunities, believing that if you just tried harder, loved deeper, gave more, you would finally be enough. But chasing comes from a place of lack. It whispers that you are incomplete. It convinces you that your happiness depends on someone else's presence, someone else's words, someone else's attention. So you keep chasing their approval, their love, their time. And every step away from yourself feels like abandonment. Every time you lower your standards to make someone stay, every time you silence your needs to avoid being it too much, you're sending a message to yourself that you are not worthy as you are. But the truth is, what you chase will always run. When you're constantly seeking, constantly striving, constantly pouring into others without receiving anything back, you are moving away from your own center. And in that space, you forget your power. You forget that the most magnetic energy is not desperation, it's wholeness. It's the peace of someone who knows their worth, with or without applause. Attracting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means aligning. It means becoming the kind of person who naturally draws in what's meant for them. You stop begging and start becoming. You start pouring love into your own life, nurturing your passions, healing your wounds, and reclaiming your space. You focus on your growth, your purpose, your light. And suddenly, you begin to radiate something that no one can ignore, self-worth. And that energy? That's irresistible. You no longer chase love, you become love. You no longer chase attention, your presence commands it. You no longer chase validation, your confidence makes it unnecessary. People feel the shift. The ones who used to take you for granted start noticing your absence. The ones who overlooked you begin to wonder what changed. But the truth is, you didn't change for them. You just came home to yourself. Attracting also means trusting. Trusting that you don't have to force what's right. That the right people, the right moments, the right opportunities will be drawn to your energy when you're aligned with who you truly are. You start understanding that if something feels like a constant uphill battle, maybe it's not meant for you. That your job is not to convince someone to love you, but to love yourself so deeply that anyone who enters your life must rise to meet that standard. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes courage to stop chasing. It takes strength to sit still in your worth. It takes healing to understand that you are already enough. But the moment you stop chasing is the moment you start attracting everything that was waiting for you to remember who you are. Not because you begged for it, but because you finally became a match for it. Valuing your own worth first is the foundation of everything. Your relationships, your choices, your peace, and your future. It's the quiet yet powerful act, finally realizing that your value does not increase or decrease based on someone else's ability to see it. You were always worthy, always enough, but somewhere along the way, life convinced you to forget. Maybe it started in childhood, when you were praised only when you excelled, only when you pleased, only when you met certain expectations. Maybe it was a relationship that made you feel like you had to earn love, perform for it, prove yourself over and over again, just to feel safe. And so slowly, your worth became a transaction. Something you traded for attention, affection, acceptance. But worth isn't earned, it's remembered. It's already there, buried under years of people pleasing, self-doubt, comparison, and pain. And the moment you begin to value yourself, truly, deeply, unapologetically, is the moment you stop begging others to do it for you. When you value your own worth first, you stop asking questions like, why didn't they choose me? Then start asking, why did I want someone who couldn't see me? You stop settling for half love, for mixed signals, for people who only show up when it's convenient. You realize that your time, your energy, your heart are sacred, and not everyone deserves access to them. This kind of self-value isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's in the quiet decisions you make when no one's watching. It's in choosing rest over proving. It's in walking away from what doesn't feel right, even when you're afraid to be alone. It's in knowing your worth isn't defined by what you do, what you look like, or who you're with, but by the fact that you exist as you are. Valuing your own worth first also changes the way you love. You no longer pour yourself into empty spaces, hoping someone will meet you there. You love from fullness, not from fear. You don't overextend yourself to earn someone's presence. You don't chase closure or force understanding. You begin to trust that the right people will not need to be convinced, and the wrong ones won't have the power to define you. You also begin to treat yourself with the same care you once reserved for others. You speak kinder to yourself. You forgive your past. You stop holding yourself hostage to old mistakes. You nourish your body, protect your peace, and honor your needs. And as you do, the world around you shifts. Because the way you treat yourself teaches others how to treat you. People notice when someone values themselves. There's a quiet strength in a person who doesn't chase, who doesn't beg, who doesn't settle. That strength is magnetic. And those who are meant for you, those who are aligned with your energy, your depth, your truth, will recognize it. They won't try to dim your light. They'll meet you in your fullness. But that begins with you. Not waiting for someone to see your worth, but deciding right here and now that it's non-negotiable. Healing, growing, and letting silence speak is a journey that starts in the most fragile spaces of your heart. The places where pain once lived, where your voice was quieted, where your worth was questioned. It begins not with grand declarations, but with small, tender moments of choosing yourself over and over again. And in that process, you start to understand that healing is not about forgetting what hurt you. It's about learning to carry your story with grace. You stop replaying conversations in your head, hoping for a different ending. You accept what is, honor what was, and choose what will be. Letting silence speak also means trusting the process. You no longer chase closure from people who refuse to give you honesty. You no longer explain your choices to those committed to misunderstanding your heart. You no longer overexpress your pain just to feel seen. You learn to sit with your emotions, to feel them fully, and to let them pass without shame. In that stillness, you find a strength that no noise could ever give you. A strength that doesn't need validation, only alignment. Growth is often invisible. It happens in the quiet mornings when you choose peace over reaction. In the nights when you decide to rest instead of overthinking. In the moments you listen to your intuition instead of silencing it. And slowly, without even realizing it, you become someone who no longer breaks at the same points. Someone who doesn't chase chaos just to feel alive. Someone who is whole, rooted, and free